Welcome to Credit Union Chatt Box, the official podcast of Chattanooga First Federal Credit Union. My name is Michael Crosa, and I'm here to learn more about personal finance and what makes this credit union special. In each episode, we'll chat with experts, members, and staff about money topics that matter most to you. Now, this is a judgment-free zone, so don't be shy about asking questions. Learning more about money is how we get ahead. All right, now let's dive in. Thanks again for tuning in to another episode of Credit Union Chatt Box, the official podcast of Chattanooga First Federal Credit Union. My name is Michael Crosa, and I'm here with Terri Stansell, president of the credit union. Terri, how are you?
Good. How are you, Michael?
I'm doing well.
Wonderful.
Thanks again for joining us this week.
Thank you for having us.
Of course, yeah. So this time we are talking about mortgages, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, this was before I knew you, but I just bought a house a little over a year ago, and it's a whole thing. It's a whole process.
It is. It's the American dream, and it's exciting, but it can also be scary.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that we're here to break it down and kind of talk about what that looks like through Chattanooga First Federal Credit Union. So, what are some of the things that you think everybody should know about how mortgages work?
Well, it depends on if you're purchasing or refinancing. Are you purchasing a house? Are you purchasing land? So let's start with purchasing a home.
Okay.
For your family. And again, like I said, that's the American dream, goal to own your own home, and you can fix it up to your taste and likes, and that's probably the biggest investment someone will ever make in their life. So purchasing a home, when someone starts out, they are lost. They just know they want to own their home and have a good idea of what their payment amount, what their budget needs are. They may qualify for more of a house payment, but yet they know their lifestyle and know that, no, we don't want it to be more than $1,000 a month, even though they may qualify for $1,500 a month. So sometimes there can be people that will push them into a higher price range home. And my advice is, please don't let that peer pressure happen. Only buy what you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
And again, everyone has their own specific needs. Some may say, well, no, we want our children, we want to save for a college fund for them, or we want to drive nice cars. So no, we're not going to buy the big, expensive, fancy home. We're going to be modest. This can always be their first time home, and then they can move to a second time home. But in the home buying process, before they even go look at a house, they may drive by and see a home, or they may be looking, on the ads online. Please, you need to get pre-qualified and have that pre-approval letter before you can actually start looking at homes. That's one of the requirements that realtors or the seller is going to require, that you already be pre-approved for a certain amount of home.
Gotcha.
And that's where it's an easy process. We just ask you a bunch of questions like, where do you work? How long have you worked there? What's your income? At that point, we are not asking for proof or documentation.
Sure.
We're just a
conversation.
Just a conversation. You can pull out your tax returns, your W-2s, bank statements. And there's many different type of home programs depending on your down payment, depending on the area. If you're wanting to purchase in a rural area, we have USDA loans. If you are a veteran, there are VA loans that they each have their own criteria. And so that's when I will ask you a lot of questions and see which loan program would be best for you.
Nice.
As far as down payment, the qualification, there's all these different types. There's even a program for first-time home buyers. And so you can get in with very little down payment.
Okay.
And that really helps the first-time buyers.
Gotcha. So there's a lot of options.
There
and a lot
is.
of support. Well, and when we were talking about cars, it came up that, or buying cars, that this really isn't just about a place to get money from, that there's a lot of support that comes into this. And it sounds like here again, this is just another great example of how the credit union can help, right?
Yes.
Yeah. That's great.
And serve people. And another type of loan that we do that we're seeing right now, a lot of banks and other financial institutions are not offering, and that is mortgage loans for land, to purchase land.
Okay.
And so you may be already owning a home somewhere and you're looking down the road that you want to move out into the country, but go ahead and purchase some land, and then later build on it. So we've got some great loan programs for unimproved property.
Okay.
And it's fixed rate, good term. So we're pretty popular for that type of loan.
Nice. You also mentioned first-time home buyer. Can you talk about what that looks like?
Well, usually that could be as little as 3% down.
Okay.
And so that's where the rate will be adjusted a little higher.
Yeah.
But that is a good way for someone to get from renting,
right,
and to get into home ownership. Okay,
let's talk about down payments, and and maybe we can use some example numbers. So, so down payment you said 3% for first-time home buyer, right? What would the normal for somebody who's previously bought a home, like what would that minimum down payment be like?
Well, they can actually sometimes get in for 0% down.
Oh, nice.
However, if you pay 20% down, then you will not have to purchase private mortgage insurance.
Okay.
So private mortgage insurance, what it is, it's a separate add-on to your principal and interest payment, plus your taxes and insurance. So it pays a third party that in case of default on your loan, that third party will pay us, the lender, will pay that loan down to 80%.
Gotcha.
So your rate and qualifying for the loan are easier. You're going to have a better rate and easier qualifying if you have 20% down.
Gotcha. So it's not that it's a minimum, it's more that it's kind of like a magic number or kind of like a benefit number.
Yes.
Once we reach that, then more options open up. So then if, let's say we found a home, I want to buy a home for $200,000, right? Which might be lucky depending on where we're at. But, okay, so if I'm 20% down, that would be $40,000. So I would need to walk into that with $40,000 in order to...
plus closing costs.
Plus closing costs. So, so that's 20%. That's if, that's that magic number for people who have bought houses previously. But if I'm a first-time home buyer, same house, 3% would be $6,000. So that's a big difference, 6,000 versus 40,000.
Yes.
So that's a big benefit and definitely an incentive, right? I mean,
yes. Now the credit union, we do have another mortgage product.
Okay.
And that's an in-house loan. I mean, that means the loan stays here, and we go 90%. 90% without private mortgage insurance. But the qualifying debt ratios get a little stricter.
Okay. Well, wait a minute, though. 90%, what is that?
Of the purchase price or the appraised value, whichever is less.
And that's the loan amount?
That would be the loan amount.
Or that's the down payment?
Well, we would go 90%, so you would have a 10% down payment.
Okay.
So if you're looking at a $200,000 home, and it stays in-house here, then it's still a fixed rate, but you're only looking at $20,000 down.
Gotcha.
Now, if you're purchasing it from a relative, that's where it changes. We do allow that relative to gift you back 5%, and then you only have to pay down 5%.
Interesting.
Without private mortgage insurance.
Okay, so you talked about an in-house, that it all stays in-house here at Chattanooga First Federal Credit Union. What does that mean?
That means your loan is originated, processed, closed, and you will make your payments to us.
Okay, so if it doesn't stay in-house, then there might be some third-party companies.
Correct.
Money might be coming
where the loan is sold.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, if I like staying local, which I do, then that's another great option then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. What are some of the questions that you get from a lot of first-time home buyers who are looking to get started in home ownership?
They mainly say, here's a house, we found a house, we want to purchase it. And how long will this take?
Yeah.
And some think, oh, we can just do it in a week. And no, there is a long process to it, unfortunately.
Gotcha. Okay.
And, there's ordering the appraisal, ordering the flood certification to make sure it's not in a flood zone.
Mm-hmm.
If it is in a flood zone, we will still finance it. You just have to carry flood insurance on top of your homeowner's insurance. There may be some special inspections that have to be done on the house, just depending on the agreement between the seller and the buyer.
Sure.
In that contract, there's just the final approval process. The title company, they have to ensure that there are no liens or encumbrances against that property. If there is, that they are going to be paid off when it goes to close, so that you will have a clear deed to that home.
Right on.
Yeah.
And so that's all the more reason to come talk to you before even house
absolutely.
shopping. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right on. Do you see anything specific to the Chattanooga area when it comes to home buyership that, maybe if somebody's moving from out of town, they may not know about the Chattanooga home market?
They just need to see that the house, before they make a offer on it, if it's in a flood zone.
Yeah.
We do lending in Georgia, Alabama, and Tennessee.
Okay.
So there's some kind of few little different laws and things that have to be done before moving to Chattanooga. They may want to check the crime rate in that area, or the walkability rating, because some people want to be able to walk to restaurants, or if you live in the suburbs, that's a little difficult.
Sure.
They may want to check the schools.
All the normal things and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've also talked about membership at, Chattanooga First Federal Credit Union, how that's different than other financial institutions. What would a person need to get membership in order to have a mortgage with you?
Well, once they become a member, and that's being eligible by work, live, attend school, conduct business on a regular basis, or worship in Hamilton County, then they're eligible. Our lending area is a 150-mile radius of our office, located at 3120 Broad Street.
Right on, yeah.
So that's why we can lend in Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee. So they just need to call, make an appointment. I will tell them, we can take an application over the phone. They can come in person. There are different rates based on the term.
Okay.
Some people may want to go 10 years all the way up to 30 years. And then the rates also could be based on your credit score. Mm-hmm. And we can work with people if they're not quite ready. We can help them. It might take 6 months or a year to help them get their credit scoring eligible for them to qualify for a mortgage.
Gotcha.
Or maybe they need a little more time on their job, but they haven't been on their job that long.
Yeah.
So, I do advise them to get them prepared to qualify.
Gotcha. So that's a great service that you offer to help people out.
Yeah.
So, so you talked about that 150-mile radius of people who live in there. Let's say somebody wants to move from Oklahoma. They're planning on coming to Chattanooga. They've come to visit. They love it. They are going to buy a house here, but they don't actually live here yet. Are they eligible, or do they need to have moved here already?
They will be eligible if they can show us that either if they're taking a job here, that they've got, there's a commitment from this employer.
Okay.
They can show us that. Or let's say they retired, which we have had quite a few retired people, like from California, Michigan.
Yeah.
That retired to Tennessee. And that if they've got a contract on a house here or contract on land that shows their intent to locate here.
Gotcha.
And yes.
Okay, cool. That. So you're able to work with folks from out of town. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. What else do you think people should know about mortgages?
That there are many different mortgage products, and there is one to fit someone's needs. Whether it be rural property, urban property, off the grid property.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, and you mentioned veteran support. right?
Yeah, so the VA loan, that is a special type of loan for veterans, and they are issued a letter of eligibility that tells them how much of a mortgage they can receive, and that is backed by the Veterans Administration.
Cool. If somebody wants to go through that, do they start with the VA or?
Well, they can call me and I will tell them the first step that they need to make.
Okay.
And that usually is contacting the Veterans Administration to get what they call their letter of eligibility. Mm-hmm. So it may say that they will back, a $500,000 loan, or they may back a $300,000 loan, and then that helps them to move forward.
And so what does that mean when they're going to back a loan?
It's guaranteed by the Veterans Administration. So if they should default on that loan, the lender does not have that liability. It's the Veterans Administration.
Gotcha.
And usually their eligibility, the dollar amount of their eligibility is based on the years of service and their rank in service when they left.
Gotcha. So does that mean that they would get a better rate on the interest loan, or?
No, it just means it's easier to qualify because the lender knows that this loan is 100% guaranteed by the federal government. Yes. Now, lenders can go more than their eligibility. They say they want that $500,000 home, but their eligibility is only $300,000. Then that's up to the lender.
You would
to
decide
approve them.
what,
yes.
Yeah, okay.
For that difference.
Nice. What about rural property? We've got a lot of beautiful woods and things like that around the Chattanooga area. So what does that look like?
Well, we have even financed 500-acre tracts of land for people. And, it's a fixed rate. The maximum term's 15 years. Mm-hmm. So that's very, enticing for people.
Do you see a lot of people who are either developing on land, or are people using it for hunting, or, what are?
It's a combination of both. And I think it makes them feel, even though they may know that they're going to reside in an urban or suburban area for another 5 or 10 years, that they're, paying on that land, and that's one of their goals in life. We might retire there, or
cabin in the woods style. Yeah, I love that.
So another type of mortgage loan that we do, that's in-house loan, that is not acceptable to the conventional and FHA and VA, is that we will finance a home with more than 10 acres. So if you have a home in 20 acres, that we are the person to call for that.
Nice. And other places may not then.
Correct.
Oh.
And also like a home on the lake, where these others their guidelines will be that the property itself cannot exceed 25% value of the total value of the property. So let's say you may have a home on the lake. The house itself is worth $50,000.
Okay.
And the lake lot is worth $200,000. Conventional financing is not available. Oh. But with us, that is.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. Cool. So we talked in our first episode about the difference between a credit union and other types of financial institutions. So if somebody asked you, why should I go with a credit union for a mortgage compared to these others, what would be your answer to that question?
My answer would be talk to us, see what kind of products we have that would fit your needs. Mm-hmm. But there are also other financial institutions like mortgage brokers, and they do offer more products than we do.
Okay.
So we are limited. However, what we have is our niche. And again, like the unimproved property loans, you're not going to find that at your standard mortgage broker.
Gotcha. So it does sound like you've got special offerings that other places may not have. Well, I like that. And I, one of my big takeaways from this conversation too is call early, come early, start here early, even before calling a realtor, before going on Zillow, or, you might already be on Zillow, but, to come in early and just start talking.
But most of the time people do, they say, oh, the house next door, we're renting a house and the house next door went up for sale.
Yeah.
Or the house we're renting, the landlord says, okay, we've got to get out or purchase it.
Yeah.
And that's okay. We can be quick. We will respond quickly. We understand some situations are urgent.
Yeah.
And it's got to be taken care of, and we're the one to call for that.
Right on. All right. So if somebody wants to call, they're excited about getting started, how do they get in touch?
423-267-7621 or stop by at 3120 Broad Street.
Awesome. Well, we will put all of that information as well as a link to your website down in the show notes below. So thanks again, Terri, for coming.
Well, thank you, Michael.
Yeah.
Appreciate this opportunity.
And thanks for listening to Credit Union Chatt Box. That's all for this episode of Credit Union Chatt Box. To learn more, contact the fine folks at Chattanooga First Federal Credit Union at chatfirst.org, linked in the show notes below. That's chat with 2 T's, chatfirst.org. This show is produced by Chattanooga Podcast Studios and is a member of the Podnooga Network. If you have any questions or topics for us to cover on the show, please send us an email at podnooga@gmail.com. Now, keep in mind, this show is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. Laws and policies change often, so always check with an expert before making decisions based on what you hear in our show. We'll be back soon with more personal finance insights on the next episode of Credit Union Chatt Box.